We are recording.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the LFUCG's Ethics Commission special meeting of December 19th, 2022. First of all, I'd like to welcome our newest member of the commission, Brenda Vance. Brenda, welcome. On our agenda is one item today. It's consideration of AO 2022-03 advisory opinion request that was submitted by Stacy Maynard, and Stacy is here to answer any questions that the commission has. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the request for the advisory opinion? Okay, with that being stated, does anybody have questions for Stacy about the request? For example, does anyone have any questions about how the NDF process works, et cetera, or what we may know about this specific request? I guess, Stacy, can you tell us generally how this works?
Yes, so we have two different ways to do NDF's neighborhood development funds. A council member can come to me and say, I want to give X amount of dollars to X organization. They have to be a nonprofit. They have to be registered and in good standing with the Secretary of State. Or they can do what we call a pass around, which is what this particular one was, where I put them all in a folder. We pass them around the dais during a meeting, and each council member, if they choose to contribute, just writes in what they want to contribute to it. They're normally pretty routine. Occasionally a council member can't contribute for various different reasons due to a conflict. This one's just a little bit different because it's not a council member, but it's a director of a division in the government appointed by the mayor. So when I was passing this one, I had a couple of council members ask if we could go down this path just to be sure that we were okay with giving this money to this nonprofit. And so I think I attached the email from our law department, and that's what got us to here. And I sent Evan a copy of the NDF agreement. So once all of it's processed and it's approved by council, we get a check. They sign an agreement for what the purpose of the funds are. Sometimes it's very specific. Sometimes it's just operating expenses, general things like that. But I did provide Evan with a copy of what we send out.
And just so they have a better understanding, Stacy, so NDFs, they're basically their council, every council member gets a certain amount. Can you explain that?
Yes. So each year, each council member gets their current budget for NDFs is $10,000 each. And that is to be distributed at their discretion with the stipulation that it's a nonprofit organization in good standing with Secretary of State, or they can also provide it to a division within the city government. Like if there was a stop sign or something to be installed or some kind of speed calming measure, they could do that too internally for different neighborhoods that they have in their districts.
And just sorry, one more thing. Pass arounds, who decides which ones get passed around?
That's at the request of the council member. So they would either say, I want to give a single allocation. So I want to give $500 to the Salvation Army, or they would say, I want to send this around as a pass around. There's a different memo that I have that they use to give me for those two things. So they would request a pass around or not. And this was council member Ellinger. And he requested a pass around for this one, but he's out of town, so he couldn't be here.
Stacy, do you know much about Mr. Karama's relationship with the Believing in Forever group?
I do not. I only know that he started the nonprofit and he, I believe, runs it, but that is the extent of my knowledge for that.
According to the website, he was the only person I saw listed specifically. It didn't look like he was listed as one of the folks on the current Secretary of State filing, though.
And Brenda, I think he is. I think that's his stage name. Divine Friend is stage, or I think it'd be equivalent of a stage name. I think that what was on the Secretary of State was actually his real name.
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect.
He does have a different name because I saw it on a list once in the mayor's office and I had to
Okay.
ask who it was.
Um,
So we don't know the project. Is that what you?
I don't know exactly what all he does with that organization, but I do know that once a year they do a coat drive during the winter months. And so I'm just based on the timing, I would think it was for that coat drive.
Yeah, it's currently going on now, according to the Facebook page.
and news reports. Well, any additional questions for Stacy?
I have a question about what is it that this this nonprofit does that is different than what One Lexington does, if anything?
Evan, I
No,
I don't think
I only
they-
know things in generalities. So One Lexington was created to try to alleviate and prevent and stop youth violence, especially youth gun violence. So they have resources pertaining to attempts to stop youth gun violence, and they have programs out in the community and stuff like that. So
how is it funded?
the LFUCG gives them a budget every year in the
Yeah,
mayor's budget.
it's yeah, I think he's an employee. He's in the mayor's office, right? I think
Yes.
his position is within the administration as a director.
Could not to complicate at all, but could they use these NDF funds by giving it to One Lexington? If that's the ignorant question. It is there a reason to not fund One Lexington to the extent that the city or the mayor's office believes that's what should be done? Or if we have these extra discretionary funds to put them toward that existing thing, or with to be used within that, as opposed to this other organization, is it? But I guess I don't know enough, and maybe none of us know enough about what is being done differently in this other organization that isn't done through, or can't be done through, One Lexington.
The only thing that I think, and Evan, I may be totally wrong, so feel free to jump in. With One Lexington, if the money was given to One Lexington, in order for him to use it at the nonprofit, it would still have to go from the city to that nonprofit.
Oh, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. I meant not ever going into the nonprofit, just going into the budget.
Yeah. I think he's asking you had mentioned earlier, Stacy, that it can go to divisions within the government.
Mhm.
Could a council member do an NDF to One Lexington?
They could, but there would have to be a purpose that was under One Lexington's purview. So if we gave money to social services, it would have to be like specifically for the family care center, or if we gave it to streets and roads, it would have to be for a specific street or corner or traffic calming device, crosswalk kind of thing. We've given money to parks for a specific tree or a specific bench or things like that. But I don't think like One Lexington has something that's tangible like that we could give money to. Does that make sense?
Maybe
we could give it to them for programming costs, certainly, but I don't think that would benefit the nonprofit. I don't know that I don't know.
I don't think he's asking that. I think he's just asking whether or not you can give it to One Lexington. And I think the answer is yes.
Yes, the answer is yes, but there would have to be a purpose for it.
So my question to them or to whomever would know would be, why not just do that rather than donate it to this nonprofit? And there may be a very good reason and a very good answer, but what is it that's intended to be done through this nonprofit that can't be done?
Well, and I'm not speaking from any actual knowledge on the matter, but it's my understanding that we're not really, he's not seeking funding for his One Lexington role. They're not contemplating giving money for One Lexington, which has a different purpose than his nonprofit, which is related to coats versus gun violence. And I think that ultimately the question is whether in his role as the nonprofit director or whatever, outside of his role as Lexington's employee, can the money go to him there? I guess I think I see what you're saying. It might be easier if they just gave it to One Lexington instead of through that nonprofit. But I think that if my understanding is correct, they're not really similar purpose vehicles for expending the funds.
And then that's what I'm trying to get to, is what is the difference with the other? And I don't know that this bears on the answer to the question, but are there other funds that aren't operated by an employee of the urban county government that purchase coats for people or do those things that his organization does that are options that could be used? But that being said, fundamentally, I don't have an initial problem with that if that's the way they want to use these discretionary funds. But it seems like there might be a couple of other options if what they want is for them to go and be used for the purposes of what One Lexington is, which it sounds like our guess is that the answer to that is no. They really want to give it to this other organization. And if that's the case, then we get down to the question, is that a perceived conflict of interest because of his role as and I guess that would be the same issue for any other employee of the urban county government that operates a nonprofit of any kind. Can they use those? Have we or predecessor ethics commissions ever ruled on that or made a decision?
I haven't seen anything.
And I've been in my role for 11 years, and this is the first time it's come up with these funds since I've been here.
And if you want, I have the websites pulled up. So for instance, for the Believing in Forever website, it says at Believing in Forever, it's our mission. The website for the mission statement is, at Believing in Forever, our mission is to inspire and motivate young people towards community leadership through art, education, mentoring, and community service. So that's ultimately part of what they do. So it's youth-oriented, community service, community leadership. And One Lexington, on the One Lexington's website is while Lexington is one of the safest cities in the nation, we ourselves have seen a rise in violent crime, especially among youth and young adults. That's why we created One Lexington initiative in the summer of 2017 to coordinate all of our activities addressing violent crime and tackle these issues. Understand the city can't solve these problems alone. So it's basically looks like it's a coordinating organization with a bunch of external groups to address youth violence. So the youth, I think, is the carryover, and I think social services would probably say that addressing needs would then, addressing individuals' needs would then address violence, right? People have what they need, they wouldn't return to violence. So it's glove in hand, probably.
I think the one thing that I saw on the website that leans toward the conflict of interest, and if there was a workaround for this, on one of those tabs, Evan, is their financial review, and the latest one that's posted is 2020, but he draws a director salary that's 13% of total receipts. I don't know that it would be appropriate to give city funds and then, have a factor go into personal salary.
That's a good point about that website. I forgot to mention that, and I saw that tab too.
Any other questions for Stacy? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session for us to debate and deliberate on the request.
I'll move to go in closed session.
Okay. Do you have the, you have the motion?
I have a motion, kind of formally to move to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810.1F and KRS 61.810.1J as discussion of this AO 2022-3 may lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee, member, or officer, and involves the deliberations of a quasi judicial body regarding individual adjudications. That is my motion.
Do I have a
Second.
second? All in favor? With the motion having a second, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will head into closed session.
Thank you.
Okay, I will stop the recording at 5:53 PM and I'll remove the people who are not on the commission. So record. Okay, we are recording at 6:10 PM, bringing Stacy Maynard back in. Okay, Stacy's back in.
Very good, thank you. The LFUCG Ethics Commission special meeting is back in session, open session, having deliberated in closed session AO 2022-03. Do I have a motion from the commission?
Yes, I'd like to move that the law department provide a draft formal opinion in response to the request, stating the opinion of the commission that the request for NDF funds to be directed to the nonprofit run by the director of One Lexington, an employee of the Fayette County government, be disallowed, as it appears based upon the information that we have available to us, that the grant of these funds would violate provisions in the ethics code that forbid financial benefit to an employee, and also violate the code in that such grant of funds would be a perceived conflict of interest or have an appearance of impropriety, and would ask that the law department bring back this draft for review by the full commission to vote and finalize for the issuance of a formal opinion.
I second that.
Thank you, Carrie and Hank. Any further discussion?
I think Carrie did really well with a lot of words there.
Having no further discussion, I'll call the question. Everyone in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. That concludes our business for this evening. Stacy Maynard, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
And again, Brenda, welcome to the commission. I want to
Thank
wish
you.
everyone a safe and as warm as possible holiday season, y'all. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll move to close this meeting.
Oh, yes, thank you. I want to leave so quickly. So we got a motion to close the meeting, thankfully, from Evan Buckley. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Evan, thank you for saving me.